The secret to teaching someone D&D is to anticipate pain points and learning to play and be ready to address those points. If you remember what it was like to play D&D for the first time, you remember how strange it was at first. Put yourself in the new player's shoes and visualize what could have made learning much smoother. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to do it. The last step is the most important step, so be sure to stay to the end. Step 1. Introduce the concept. Start by explaining what D&D is. Don't assume they know what the game is, like even if they watch Stranger Things. Describe it as a collaborative storytelling game where players create characters and embark on adventures guided by a dungeon master, or the DM. Step 2. Discuss the basics. Cover the fundamental components of the game, characters, dice, and the role of the DM. Explain that players create characters with unique abilities, and the DM guides the adventure, describing the world and playing the roles of non-player characters, or NPCs. If you want more tips and tricks to having the maximum fun playing D&D or other tabletop games, be sure to subscribe to the channel. When you subscribe to the channel, a magical portal will open, transporting you to an endless realm of adventure and discovery. Step 3. Character creation. There are two ways you can go with this. One is to give them some pre-made characters to choose from, or you can have them create their own character. I prefer to give them pre-made characters if I'm really not sure if they're going to like this game. I want to get them playing as soon as possible. If you're pretty sure they're going to like it, then you can invest the time in having them create a character. It really is the best way for them to become invested in the game. Help them create a character. Walk them through choosing a race, class abilities, and background. Emphasize creativity and personalization. Step 4. Explain the rules. Introduce the basic rules of the game, focusing on actions like combat, skill checks, and saving throws. Use examples to illustrate how these mechanics work in gameplay. I like to focus on the idea that all checks are just rolling a d20 and adding your modifiers, and letting the DM know the result. Then it just becomes looking up the modifier and adding it to the dice. Combat is as simple as rolling to see if you hit and rolling for damage. Step 5. Start with a simple adventure. Prepare a beginner-friendly adventure or use a pre-written module. Keep it straightforward with clear objectives and minimal rules to start. Emphasize exploration, role-playing, and problem-solving. Some simple adventures could be going into the basement to kill giant spiders, or going to retrieve something that was stolen, or investigating why the delivery cart with the town's supplies hasn't arrived. These may be a little cliche for experienced players, but are exactly the kind of adventure that gets going right away. Step 6. Guide gameplay. As you lead the players through the adventure, describe the setting, present challenges, and interact with the players' characters through NPCs. It is ideal if you have other experienced players to help the players along. I like to get the new player working with other players because working as a party is something they need to learn as well. This is a skill that needs to be learned and honed over time, and is really the secret to a player having a good time, as they are not just learning a game, but getting to know new friends. Step 7. Encourage creativity. Foster a welcoming environment where players feel comfortable role-playing and contributing to the story. Encourage them to think creatively and try new things. This is where having other experienced players really helps. When the player sees the other players coming up with outrageous ideas, they in turn take the cue that you can do some pretty crazy stuff in this game. Step 8. Use visual aids. Incorporate maps, miniatures, or digital tools to enhance the gaming experience, especially during combat encounters. Visual aids can help new players understand the game world and their surroundings. Nothing beats moving a miniature around the map to visualize combat. Theater of the mind is fine with experienced players, but the tactile feel of a map and miniatures helps the player become immersed. If you really want to create something special for the player, be sure to include music and sounds to create excitement. I like to send the player home with their own dice so that they now have a bit of a souvenir of the night and are even more ready for the next game. I have a link in the description for a great big giant bag of dice that are fairly cheap. Step 9. Provide feedback and support. Offer constructive feedback throughout the session. Answer questions, clarify rules, and provide guidance as needed. Celebrate successes and encourage players to learn from mistakes. I like for my players to have as many successes as possible so they leave having had a good time. But also want them to leave wanting more by leaving on a cliffhanger if possible. Step 10. Continue the adventure. If the new player enjoys the game, plan to continue the adventure or start a new one. Gradually introduce more advanced rules and concepts as the player becomes more comfortable with the game. Try to incorporate something from the new player's backstory to really hook them. If you are teaching kids how to play, be sure to check this video that outlines how to do it, and even has a link in the description to a kid-friendly character sheet that you can download and use in your game.